There are moments in the world of celebrity stories that feel larger than life. They unfold with all the suspense of a blockbuster movie. They carry the weight of drama. They hold the power to shock millions who are watching from a distance. And when the story involves someone like Blake Lively, the fascination only grows stronger. Because Blake Lively is not just another Hollywood name. She is an icon. She is a face that has traveled across cinema screens, magazine covers, and countless television interviews. She has lived under the blinding spotlight that never fades. The world has often seen Blake as the woman who glows with grace. Her career painted her as untouchable. Her fans believed she could do no wrong. But behind the camera flashes and the perfect interviews lies a world filled with shadows. A world where one mistake can become a headline. A world where one rumor can transform into truth for public. This story is one such moment. A story that promised to reveal a powerful weapon, a piece of undeniable proof, a smoking gun. But instead, that weapon collapsed. Instead, that truth turned to dust. At first, the whispers were small. A few online post a handful of cryptic comments. Social media thrives on the thrill of the unknown. Fans and critics alike began to speculate. They wanted answers. They wanted drama. And the promise of a smoking gun gave them both. It was said that Blake had something that would change the conversation forever. Something that could silence her critics. Something that could turn the tide of gossip that seemed endless. But here is where the suspense deepens. Because what happens when the one thing that could save you vanishes? What happens when the evidence you hold in your hands suddenly becomes worthless? What happens when a smoking gun turns into nothing but ashes? That is what this tale is about. It is not just about fame. It is not just about Hollywood. It is about how fragile even the brightest star can be when truth slips away. The stage was set. Blake was seen as someone who could take control of her own story. She had built a career on strength and elegance. She had always been admired for her ability to rise above. And yet in this chapter of her life, she would face something that even she could not control. The narrative of her smoking gun would crash before the eyes of the world. The cameras were ready. The journalists sharpened their pens. The internet prepared to erupt. Everyone waited for the big reveal. Everyone expected fireworks. And for a brief moment, it looked like Blake held victory in her hands. But in the cruelest twist, the weapon she carried was not real. The evidence was fragile. The truth was incomplete. And when the dust settled, the people watching were left stunned. The emotions were heavy. Fans were heartbroken. Critics were merciless. The internet split into two. Some said Blake had been betrayed. Others claimed she had misled them. And as the story grew louder, the lines between truth and rumor blurred into one storm of headlines. This introduction is not the end. It is only the first step into a much deeper maze. Because to understand why this epic fail mattered so much, we need to step back. We need to know who Blake Lively truly is. We need to know the journey she walked before the smoking gun was ever mentioned. And we need to uncover why the collapse of this single moment sent shockwaves across Hollywood and beyond. So let us begin this journey together. Let us step into the story of Blake Lively. Let us see the rise, the glow, the promise, and finally the fall of a moment that turned her smoking gun into dust. Every story has a beginning, and to understand the collapse of Blake Lively's smoking gun, we must first return to her roots. Because Blake was never just a name in the headlines. She was a girl with dreams, a young woman stepping into the glittering but ruthless world of Hollywood. To see the epic fail that shook her reputation, we must first see the journey that built her image. Blake Ellender Lively was born into a family where entertainment flowed through every vein. Her father was an actor. Her mother was a talent scout. Her siblings also found their way into acting. In many ways, it seemed like destiny had already written her path. She grew up surrounded by scripts, cameras, and stories. Yet she was not someone who rushed blindly into the industry. Blake was known for her warmth and her down-to-earth nature even before the fame. Her first taste of recognition came with the film Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. It was a story about friendship and youth, and Blake shined in it with a natural charm that made audiences feel like they already knew her. She was not trying to be a superstar in that moment. She was simply living the role, and people fell in love with her presence. That movie opened a door, and once it opened, the world never stopped watching. But the role that defined her early career was Serena van der Woodsen in Gossip Girl. The series became a cultural phenomenon. Teenagers and young adults across the globe tuned in to watch the glamorous yet chaotic lives of New York's elite. And at the center of it stood Blake Lively. She embodied Serena with elegance, beauty, and vulnerability. Every new success came new scrutiny. The tabloids watched her personal life, with the same hunger as her acting career. Who she dated, where she went, how she dressed, every detail became a headline. She was celebrated but also dissected. And this is the paradox of Hollywood. The same spotlight that lifts you high can also burn you if you stand too close for too long. Blake managed this balance with grace. She built her image as a fashion icon. She became admired not only for her roles but for her style. Every outfit she wore on the red carpet became a statement. She carried herself with poise, and many believed she had mastered the art of surviving fame without being consumed by it. Yet behind that calm exterior, pressures were real. In Hollywood, there are no days off from being watched. Her marriage to Ryan Reynolds only added to the fascination. The couple became a power duo admired for their humor and love story. Fans saw them as perfect, and in many ways that perfection made Blake seem untouchable. She had the career, she had the family, she had the image of someone who had it all. But life in the spotlight is never as perfect as it seems. This is why the mention of a smoking gun in her story felt so dramatic, because Blake was not just any celebrity. She was someone who represented strength, elegance, and stability in an industry known for chaos. If someone like Blake had a hidden truth, if someone like Blake held evidence that could shatter her carefully built world, then the impact would be massive. That is why the whispers gained so much power. That is why the suspense grew so heavy. People did not just see a rumor. They saw the possibility that even Blake Lively could fall. Her background shows us why this story mattered. Blake was not a forgotten name trying to stay relevant. She was an established figure at the top of her game. She was admired across generations. She had fans who defended her fiercely and critics who waited for her to make a single wrong move. That is why the stage was set perfectly for what came next. A stage where one piece of evidence could decide everything. A stage where one epic fail could echo louder than all her victories. The journey from a young girl in a family of actors to a global star had been filled with light. But light always casts a shadow. And as we move forward in this story, we will see how that shadow grew darker. We will see how the whispers of a smoking gun began to take shape. And we will see how all the glamour in the world could not stop the dust from rising when that gun finally vanished. This is the background. This is the foundation of who Blake Lively is. The girl who became a star. The star who became an icon. And the icon who found herself standing at the edge of a story that would shake her image like never before. Every storm begins with a whisper. At first, it is almost invisible. A rumor here, a post there. Something so small that most people would ignore it. But in the world of fame, even the smallest spark can set the stage for a fire. For Blake Lively, that spark was the promise of evidence. Evidence that many began to call the smoking gun. The term itself carried weight. A smoking gun means a final proof. It means a piece of truth that cannot be denied. It means the end of speculation. When whispers began that Blake had such evidence, the internet did what it always does. It multiplied the whispers into an echo. Suddenly, there were thousands of voices talking about it. Some believed it was true. Some believed it was nothing more than gossip. But all of them were watching. At first, the claims felt vague. Anonymous accounts hinted at secrets. Entertainment blogs teased cryptic headlines. They never said what the evidence was. They never said who was involved. But the suggestion that Blake Lively held a hidden card was enough to grab attention. After all, Blake was seen as someone who had always played her life perfectly. If there was something she wanted to reveal, the world assumed it must be big. Social media became a stage of theories. Fans shared their guesses in long threads. Critics laughed and said it was nothing. Some people said it would be proof connected to her personal life. Others claimed it was linked to the industry itself. A few even suggested it could be legal evidence in a battle yet to be revealed. No one knew the truth. But in the absence of truth, people created their own stories. The media took notice quickly. Headlines began to appear on entertainment sites. They used phrases like mysterious proof or final revelation. Each article added another layer of suspense. Each post made people want to know.